So the next plane that we're going to be talking about is Zendikar. Zendikar is the last of the new planes that we went to after the original Planechase set. And Zendikar is a plane where there's lots of mana, lots of jungles, giant Eldrazi creatures, all kinds of interesting things. It's a very pulp-oriented kind of world where you go on adventures, look for quests, meet allies. It's a very fun plane. It was a great block. The first Zendikar plane that I'm going to talk about is Akum, which is from the new set. This one lets all players cast enchantments as if they had flash. This is probably referring to all of the totem armor enchantments that we saw in Rise of the Eldrazi. There was kind of a minor enchantment theme going on there. Also, the pre-made deck that comes with this plane is all about enchantments. It looks very interesting. There's some new totem armors as well as some other creatures that deal with enchantments. So that is probably a great plane if you are playing the pre-made deck and you really want to be there. If you roll the chaos symbol, you can destroy a creature that is not enchanted. So that's really good. You want to make sure all your creatures are enchanted when you get to this plane. You'll probably be playing most of your creatures enchanted already, but you have the added fact of if somebody tries to do that, then you can play an enchant creature as a flash card or as an instant effect. So you can save your creature if you just hold on to a cheap enchant creature in your hand. The next plane card is the Hedron Fields of Agadim. This is the Eldrazi themed card. When it's out, creatures with a power of 7 or more cannot attack or block. But when you roll the chaos symbol, you get a 7/7 Eldrazi token with Annihilator 1. It's kind of small for an Eldrazi, but it's a 7/7 creature for free, so that's pretty useful. And obviously everybody can start building up these creatures while you're on the plane, and nobody can use them until you leave the plane. The Hedrons being the main thing that was confining the Eldrazi before they broke free during the events of Rise of the Eldrazi. Eldrazi are interesting. They range from the small Eldrazi spawn all the way to the 15/15 Annihilator 6 Eldrazi that pretty much if somebody plays that, everybody else just quits. The Eldrazi are pretty interesting with their colorless mana and their giantness, and the fact that they're colorless and they're not artifacts was pretty new at the time. The third Zendikar Planechase card is Marasa, which this one is actually from the 2009 Planechase set. It was kind of a little preview of what Zendikar was going to be like, I believe. And the way this one works is whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, its controller may search his or her library for a basic land and put it into play tapped, which works great with all your landfall abilities. Then if you roll the chaos symbol, target land becomes a 4/4 creature in addition to being a land, and that is a permanent effect, I believe. So that still affects the board even after you leave the plane. The first ability is pretty amazing if you're playing some landfall cards. Things like the step links are the more land you get into play is the bigger your creatures get. And this is probably a pretty good one to be on if you're playing any kind of Zendikar themed deck, or if you just need land. You can start playing some little creatures and get a bunch of land. It has a big acceleration early in the game if you go there. Later in the game, it can just help to thin your deck so that you're not drawing land. The final Zendikar plane is Tazim. This is actually a promo card. I don't have one myself, but some of you might have it out there. The way this one works is creatures cannot block. That is a very simple but a very effective ability. Creatures can't block, so all damage from combat is just going to be dealt to the player or planeswalker that you're attacking. When you roll the chaos symbol, you get to draw a card for every land you control, which that's another pretty insane ability, especially later in the game when you could have easily 6, 7, 8, 10 lands. You could draw a bunch of cards all at once. So that is a pretty crazy plane if you get into it later in the game. Early in the game, it's not really going to have much of an effect because there's probably just going to be a couple creatures out, and it might give you a little bit of a bonus if you roll the chaos die to draw 2 or 3 cards. Not that 2 or 3 cards isn't a big deal, but later in the game, it really has a big effect on the game. I think that Zendikar planes are pretty neat. There's only one that actually deals with lands. Well, one of the main 3, not the promo one. So I guess there really are 2 that actually deal with land, and you have one that has something to do with the Eldrazi, and another one that has to do with the enchant creatures and general enchantments. So that's a good mix. Possibly we'd like to see another one that has to deal with the landfall effect, or possibly the quest counters from the quest effects. Of course, those are enchantments, so I guess the Akum, which deals with the enchantments getting flash, is the one that benefits that. Another theme that they had in the Eldrazi block was the level counters, which I don't know if they would really do something with that on a plane card since it's more specific. Most of the planes you want to appeal to as large an audience as you can, and you want to affect the game. If you just have a plane that puts a level counter on every creature that has leveling, it's only going to affect the person who's playing the leveling creatures, which is probably the person who brought that plane to the game, or it's not going to affect anybody, which that's not really any fun either. So those are 2 more planes. We have a bunch of more planes to go before we get all done. The next ones we'll be talking about are Alara, one of my favorites, and Lorwyn / Shadowmoor, which is the same plane but kind of switches back and forth. So I'll be talking about those in the next episode. I hope you're enjoying this review of the plane cards so far, and I'd like to get any comments you have on what I should be doing with the show. Feel free. You won't hurt my feelings. If you have any suggestions on what I'm doing wrong or what I need to improve. And I will see you next episode.